Tennis coaches, if you're still getting your players to run through ladders, stop. All you're doing is getting tennis players to be really good at running through ladders. Skill doesn't transfer in the way we believe. In reality, movement is not scripted. Players will adapt, react, and behave based on the information from the environment in front of them. In today's video, I'm going to share with you why getting players to run through ladders fails the player in terms of skill development. Footwork is one of the biggest myths in tennis coaching. You'll see players do ladder drills running around cones in every single lesson around the world today. But when the players play a match, they move really badly. The question we need to ask ourselves as tennis coaches is why? Because these drills don't actually transfer into matches. When a player moves through a ladder, they are using information from the ladder. Their eyes are down and they're looking to position their feet so they don't touch the rungs of the ladder. They're using the affordances of the ladder, the opportunities for action. The big problem is, one, we don't move that way in a tennis court in terms of how we move our feet. And two, there's no ladder on a tennis court either. For the information a player uses in a real life match situation is completely different. So here are 3 common problems with using ladders. Number 1, the lack of perception and action. Tennis is a perception-action based sport. We have to act based on what we perceive. But in this context, you have to understand that there's no tennis ball. There's no opponent and the player is looking down. Whenever in a tennis match does this happen? And you'll see lots of tennis coaches around the world yelling at their players to keep their head up. But this is probably one of the worst things you can do because the player is using their perception and action coupling to get through the ladder. But they have to look at the ladder to get the information. So again, by using a ladder, all we are doing is teaching our players to look down and use information from the floor. Whereas in a tennis match, we tend to use information from the opposite side of the net. All the information that we use in a match is dynamic, it's not static. Issue number 2 is there's no decision making. The coach will pre-describe how they want the player to move through the ladder. The problem is the player is not making any type of decision making. Now, you may even include, like I have here in the clip, some alternative or some more complex situations such as balancing the ball on the rackets. But there's no problem solving. Once the player has performed the action 2 or 3 times, they've already solved the problem. They will then move on. The skill doesn't actually improve. It just maintains. And issue number 3 is the emphasis on perfect technique. You must take 2 shuffle steps into a cross step, into a split step. The problem is because we don't know where the ball's going to go and what type of height, speed and spin the ball's going to have. We also don't know the physical constraints the player might have. If I'm tall and you're small, we're both going to move differently. You can't prescribe movement solutions. What tends to happen then, players become programmed into moving in one particular way. This is quite common in junior tennis where players will constantly shuffle step. In this clip now, I'm going to show you a video of professional tennis coaches performing a movement exercise. Notice how they all shuffle step, even though the demands of the game should force you to cross or run step here. But because the players are so conditioned to shuffle step side to side, that's the movement that emerges within the game. So what's the solution, Steve? Well, the solution is relatively simple. Allow the players to learn movements within the context of the game. If I want my players to develop a more dynamic split step, I would get them to start in a quite challenging position. So they've got to make sure they have an explosive first step. If I want to develop my speed or agility for my players, I would set up a practice where they have to change direction constantly. To get better at moving at tennis is relatively simple. Just practice it within the context of the game. Practice designs should be very intentional. If you'd like 5 game-changing practice in which you could also develop your footwork with your players, please check out the link down below. As always, please like and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, I'll see you soon.